Hello from MWC 2025. I'm here together with Angela Wamola, Head of Sub-Saharan Africa at GSMA. Hello Angela, nice to meet you.
Hello, how are you?
Good, and you?
Very well, exciting out here.
That's good. So at MWC here, GSM Africa had a lot of conversations with, let's say, regulators, policymakers, and I recently read that you also had quite extensive conversations about taxes on the mobile sector, how can we boost the economy. So what are the key findings of these conversations?
So one of the key findings of our conversations here this year is about collaboration, strategic partnerships, and just working together in understanding everyone's point of view.
Yeah.
So when you look at the conversations around uh, reviewing fiscal policies, it's about understanding the developmental needs behind those policies
Yeah.
and understanding how we can come together with fiscal policy experts in order to be able to craft together solutions that meet our objectives. As you know, the sector is one of the biggest contributors to the GDP. In terms of, for example, in Nigeria, Nigeria's contribution from the mobile sector to the GDP is about 13%. And so, as an industry, we are well aligned and supportive of the industry as an enabler for developmental goals.
Yeah.
And it's our best interest to be able to speak to different partners and stakeholders within the public sector, private sector, in order to be able to move the needle forward together.
So would you say the understanding of the way forward is given within the policymakers?
Yes, I think we have to work together to understand what each participant and stakeholder brings to the table so that we can move together in concert. And so when you look at even how we've developed the digitalization studies for Africa last year, it was about understanding how the sector as a key partner and for the developmental goals can unlock value across all the sectors of the economy, and what does that mean in terms of the specific contributions in GDP, job creation, different verticals, alleviating them in terms of the challenges that they face. But more importantly, what are the policy levers and the recommendations that we can bring to the table in order to unlock that value and the potential that they have?
We've seen so many political leaders coming to MWC to Barcelona, which is a very global event. Is that already a good sign that the political will is going into the right direction?
Yes, it is, because I think it all starts from understanding what the technology can do and the future of the technology in unlocking the value, as we've mentioned, as well as addressing the specific challenges that we face. And so when you come to MWC Barcelona, you see lots of technologies and their application in society, how other regions and other countries are employing those technologies. And so I think that's a very good place to start in order to understand how we can go and apply the same and adopt the same technology for our specific Africa context. So I would recommend the policymakers and also business people as well in the private sector come to Barcelona to be able to see what we can do together in the region.
Okay, valid point. The GSMA Digital Africa Index was also a major topic here in the conversation. So what policy reforms are critical to accelerating Africa's digital growth?
So the whole purpose of the Digital Africa Index is to be able to understand the bottlenecks that are causing digital adoption to lag in the continent, but also to understand the different policy and regulatory levers that have been applied across the continent, those that are working, those that haven't worked, and understanding the reasons behind why they haven't released that sort of value. So what we did was take a baseline, understand all the policy, regulatory sort of levers that are available in the continent, but more importantly, map them towards the priorities of different countries in terms of digital consumers, digital businesses, and digital government. When we looked at that and understood how the two are correlated, that the more you have, enabling policies and regulations, the more you see adoption across all those pillars of consumers, government, and businesses. And where that is lacking is because either those policies have not been implemented, and so you start looking at what are the empowerment that needs to go into place so that we can make those policies deliver value. And what else is lacking when you compare different markets in terms of how they're working. So I think that tool in its initial phase as what was released last year is a good baseline for us to start looking at what we can do further. And this year we want to add 2 more indices to that one. We wanted to add the mobile money regulatory index for Africa in terms of our specific indicators, as well as the mobile connectivity index. Those indexes already exist, but in silos. Bringing them under the umbrella of the Digital Africa Index allows us to have now a holistic view around all the levers that are there to drive digital and financial inclusion.
Okay. So how important is the role of AI in terms of unlocking the potential and accelerating certain technologies?
I think the role of AI is self-explanatory. It's there. I mean, it's how we can use the emerging technology to adapt it to address the different challenges across the region. But I think the more important question today for the region is around how can we address the barriers, particularly the infrastructure barriers for the adoption of AI in the continent. Because AI will not work out of a cloud. AI will work with the technology that is available in the continent. And so when we start seeing the digital divide that already exists, the question is, will AI drive further digital inclusion, or at the moment, does AI look more of an emerging risk to widening the digital divide? Because unless we address those barriers that exist, and they are particularly infrastructure barriers for both supply and demand of the adoption of the technology, I think we are going to be left behind in terms of our ability to bring in the content that is there and help AI understand how we can unlock those barriers for ourselves.
Or AI could be forced in certain directions where it immediately can help. If you look at upskilling the youth, younger generation, with AI you can react much quicker for certain areas like software development or any other kind of development.
For sure, but we need also the participatory part of our consumers and our businesses to use AI. And so that challenge, as we've been talking throughout the years in terms of a usage gap, which is around the mobile internet usage gap, a large percentage of the population, that's 60% of the population, has never gone online in a continent where they are already covered by mobile broadband. And so those are the barriers that we're looking to address. In order to generate content, you must be online. You must be using that content, and more specifically in the language that you're used to. And so different areas, different opportunities with regards to AI, but working together in concert to be able to unlock that value means we have to collaborate for the infrastructure, and we have to collaborate for the development of the content across the continent.
So we know that with the AI era which we are facing, we have to upgrade data centers, immense data centers. It needs more processing power, it needs more electricity. When we look at connectivity and climate, especially in Africa, where we feel already the impact of climate change throughout different regions. So what is your take on sustainable solutions for this market?
You know, you have to look at it holistically, and that's why, as I've mentioned, infrastructure is the biggest barrier for the adoption of AI, because when you look at, as you've mentioned, data centers, the huge requirement, not only from data centers, but even emerging technologies such as 5G, that is energy hungry. They are more energy efficient as technology progresses, but at the same time, they require a lot of energy. And so as a continent, I think it's also important for us, even as we look at the way Mission 300 is speaking with governments to understand what sort of energy compacts can we come up with to allow more regional integration of energy, both access and distribution, but along, I think, the conversation of how do we even make energy more productive in terms of its productive use. Because the case for productive use of energy is the same case for how digital services will be consumed. So we have to work together to understand that we have to solve the infrastructure challenges, we have to attract more investment, and that means that we have to also drive the adoption of the same services to our population. The opportunity is there, the challenges are big, but I think the opportunity is even bigger.
All right, thank you very much. Thanks for your time, it was very insightful.
And enjoy Barcelona while you're here.
I will, thank
you.
That was Tech Africa News from MWC 2025. You can find more on techafricanews.com.